right now, what I have in store for you, that is basically a very easy way to make a dashboard. But on top of that, what I have in store for you today is to be able to self-host a lot of things very easily.
I'm really happy to have him here today, and thank you very much, Ibrahim, for
Happy
sharing
to be here. Happy to be here.
your valuable insights with us. And I'm really excited to know what you have to offer today.
Hmm.
And yeah, would you like to introduce yourself first and yeah, let us know about yourself and what you're doing, the projects that you have worked on so far. And
Hmm.
I know you have like skills that go beyond voice AI, so um, I want to
Hmm.
hear everything. So yeah.
Yeah, so my background was physics and mathematics, and when ChatGPT came around, I was feeling FOMO because I always wanted to build a company, but I was more of on a research side, mathematics, but I was like, okay, this is the time to build a company. So I tried building 2 3 startups, and I failed because of course I'm very new to this. So while doing that, YCI came around. So I also had an agency at the side, but I also would try to make money, then build startup, then make more money, then build startup. That's the kind of cycle that I'm going in right now. So the cycle, yeah, that's what I do. So right now, what I'm doing is building a campaign manager. I'm going to show. I'm not going to talk too much about myself. We can talk about that later. But right now, what I have in store for you, or that is basically a very easy way to make a dashboard. But on top of that, what I have in store for you today is to be able to self-host a lot of things very easily. And that will enable you to be able to self-host na10, self-host your own Google Drive, self-host your own email server, self-host so many other things, your own media server, your own Netflix, your own all of those things. You can do it, but we will focus on the business use case, which is na10, and then the front end that we will build a dashboard, that is the AppSmith that we're going to do. But I'll cover that later. But yeah, I do a lot of things. And one of them right now is teaching, like I like to help people. And that is what I'm going to do today.
Cool, thank you very much. Um, yeah, as you said, like for me, it's also like really hard to get the right tools. Like there are so many, and we can be easily lost with the
Yeah.
tools, and it's
Yeah.
hard to decide which one is the best and which one to use, which one not to use. So I think your experience in that will be valuable, and also the
Yeah.
posting
Yeah.
method.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about that specific query, I would always say do what you can, and do what's is good in the time frame that you have. So
Mhm.
I also have a full code stuff that like I work on, and then I have a low code stuff that I also work on because low code is faster. So that's the thing. Right now, what we're going to do, we can do in an hour or half an hour or something like that. But if you do go full code for the same thing, it's going to take like a week. So that's the point. I can do it, but I do it in low code because I can do it faster. So these are the kind of pros and cons that you go from low code to full code. But low code is always through somebody else's infrastructure, like make.com, late node, Zapier, and that we're gonna cover this. Let's. I think we should jump in. Is everybody ready?
Just a question that somebody
Mhm.
has: what is self-host? What does that mean? Can you
Oh,
explain?
no issue, no issue. Basically, whenever you're using any online service, what you have is their server that you connect to. For example, if you're using Google Drive, Google Drive is Google's server, okay? And you connect to that server. Just like you have your PC, it's also a server. So when you do self-host, basically what it is, you rent a computer somewhere in a data center. So when you have that computer, that is your computer and you pay for it. and you paid for it monthly. It's your computer, and you can do anything on it. You can install anything on it. You can, you can install Windows on it. You can install Linux on it. You can install a Google Drive on it. You can install all of those things. So that is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to rent a server, rent a computer for you, like for myself, and you could do that yourself as well. And then on top of that we will install a Ubuntu Linux, but all of that is not going to be complicated. On top of that, I'm going to explain it. But for the self-host part, basically what it is that you rent a computer inside a data center, and that is your computer. You can do anything with it, and it is connected to the internet, so you can connect other people to that server as well. Every single website that has ever existed is on a server, so you can create your websites, and you can have your server that is there, and you connect other people to that server as well.
Okay, then let's start. Can you share your screen?
Yes, I am using basically, yeah, so this is my presentation. This is self-hosting, a custom dashboard. Basically, you will have a dashboard that you will own, rent a server, and build a dashboard on top of it that you can let anybody have. So if anybody has questions, please put them in chat, and please, Noor, you can ask me that question. So first, why are we here? We are trying to get rid of make.com, get rid of Zapier, all of those, and we want to rent a server. And on top of that, we want to host some stuff that we can do all of it ourselves. Why do we want to do all of that? Because it will save us a lot of money, because it is not going to be charged by operations. It is our server. As long as it is running, whatever we pay for it, that's all we pay for it. It's capped. It's not that much. And the other part is we can white label it. We can have our own domains on it. It's all our branding. And there's other stuff as well. We'll talk about that later. So what is the self-hosting benefits? I talked about it. We can cut costs. You can own your own data. We can white label thing, and we can scale as we need. And so what our stack is going to be is we need to first rent a server. So if you have heard about AWS, if you heard about Google Cloud, these are cloud providers. Every time you have a website, you can host there or other places. But we're going to use Hetzner for a specific reason, is that it is very cheap. It is very cheap. They're a European company. They charge in pounds, and they're relatively cheaper. And the point is, there are a lot of cheaper people out there, but the point is they're big enough that they have enough reliability that you're not going to fail. So basically, it's called the 4.9 reliability. They have that. So 99.999, something like that. And what we're going to do on top of that is we're going to have a container orchestration thing. It's a big word, but basically it's like your Windows machine. So on top of that, we're going to install a Windows something that is going to allow us to run a NA10, which is the completely different thing from Make or Zapier. And the other thing is AppSmith, which is something like your front end, your website, so to say. But was so easy that it's like you could say it's like WordPress or something like that, and it's going to make it very easy for you to build a dashboard and connect to your backend. So I talked about this. Why Coolify? It's pretty easy. There are a lot of things I'm going to show you later. There are a lot of things that you can just, by the way, we should just get into it, and I'm going to show you all of those things later. By the way, I should give you a thing what we're trying to build. Let's just, yeah, so this is what we're trying to build. And if we go for the Coolify, this is I'm going to just show you what we're doing. And if I add a project, something and something, and I continue, here I will get, this is a production server, and I add new resource. This is what we're going to be getting here. And these are the services that from one click you can, instance, and you will own it. You will own it. Nobody else will own it. You will own it. For example, these are all the databases out there that you can just, instantiate. This is AppSmith that we're going to use today. And this is, for example, this is also another, this is cal.com. This is, you know, all those chat bots, this and you can find something like, this is another thing that you could use for the same. This is your own kind of Notion. This is your Wikipedia. This is your you know, server, your own Netflix server. So these are the open source version of everything that you generally use in your life, but you could have it for on your own machine. So that's something that you could do. So that is what we're going to do. And what we're going to install is na10, which is around here. And it's just 1 to 2 clicks and you can install them. And then we have something called AppSmith that is we're going to actually use to build our dashboard. Does anyone have any questions till now?
So far, we have here, you can also comply with regulations like GDPR, correct?
Yes, exactly. So in the pipeline that you're using, there's the LLM part that you don't control. And then there's the all the APIs that you're using that you don't control. But let's say you are putting that on Airtable, that is also another API that you're using. So the more APIs you use, the more HIPAA compliance and all of those compliance you have to you know, bear with. But let's say I use Supabase. It's a basically a database kind of thing. So let's say it's going to be around here as Supabase. So let's say I use Supabase and I give, anybody comes along and says, are you GDPR compliant? Are you, for example, HIPAA compliant? So all the system, I have to first talk about all the APIs that I use, and I have to go to them and figure out a way to get them HIPAA compliant first, and then all the data that I store, I can just I can let the authorities audit my database. So if I have my own database, and they have access to my server, they could audit it and they see, okay, I'm anonymizing all of that data and I'm actually complying with that regulation. I have control over all of that data other than the APIs that I'm using. And that decreases your, makes it easier for you to be GDPR or HIPAA compliant. So any other question?
For now,
This,
no.
this is Supabase, for example.
Mhm.
So these are all the things. Any other question? Or should we just go in?
Um, there are no other questions yet.
Okay. The first thing you have to do is to get a server, a computer. So this is Hetzner. You can just go to Hetzner Cloud and just, you know, Hetzner, and you can just sign up to it just like you would sign up to something, anything. And they are cloud providers. They have big data centers just like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a server here. We're going to buy a server basically. So I just bought this server. If we actually go to the main dashboard, this is going to be a project. Inside a project, you're going to rent a server. I just rented it just for this, but I'm going to delete this. Well, I shouldn't delete this. It's just something that I just did to prepare for this. But these are servers, these are data centers, and you can choose any data center here. And you should choose close to your target customer so that they have the least latency. So let's say your clients are in US West Coast, so I would choose that. So now uh, this is the real part here. I'm going to choose Coolify here. And Coolify, this is going to be installed on Ubuntu. Ubuntu is like Windows, but it's Linux. You don't have to understand it. But the point is this: we're going to have an something on top of Ubuntu that is going to, which is this, which is going to make it very easy for us to have container you know, orchestration. I will not explain what that means, but if anybody has a question, I will explain it at the end, what containers are and all of those things. So let's go back to our, so after that, we're going to choose our plan basically. And this is the best part of this, that it is going to be, it is inside, like if I choose this thing, like 4 GB, 8 GB, I could install multiple things inside of it. I have an SSD and I could also have a volume on top of it. So I have a lot of storage, a lot of GPU, a lot of RAM, and is it's going to run, and inside of this machine I could pack in so much value that so many SaaS that I'm paying 30, 50, $100 for, they all go away and they all come down to $30. And I manage them, I control them, all the data is there. I can audit it, all of that stuff. But it's a little bit more. But the way that I'm explaining it, it's so easy that anybody could do it. There are one or two things that we're going to do, which are going to be a little bit complicated, but other than that, it's going to be a breeze. So let's choose this one. It's going to be 4 CPUs and AMD CPUs, and it's 8 GB RAM. By the way, this is the shared CPU version, and you could also go dedicated. I would like you to go dedicated if you are using NA10, because that's something that is going to be running very much if you're doing big jobs. So you could also get dedicated performance, and that's also, this one is also a good value. And by the way, these are in pounds. So by the way, am I spending too much time here? I think we should go fast a little bit. We're 20 minutes in. So these are the only 2-3 things that you have to think about: the Coolify, this, and this part. So I'm going to just go fast here, and whatever. I'm going to hide this and wait. Create and buy now. So just do that. It's going to just make this server. It's going to be very fast, relatively primary IP created. It's going to take some time, but while it's doing that, this is the server that we just created, something like this. Okay, 4 GB, 8 GB, 160 GB, all of that. So there's one point here that we have to talk about. This is not going to be as simple, which is that you have to run one particular command inside a terminal. So people, they don't feel comfortable using a terminal, but you can download this particular app, and inside that app we'll have to run a particular terminal. So what is a terminal? It's like command line that you talk to in code with your computer, with your server. This is a server, so I have to talk to it a little bit. Why do I have to talk to it? Because it has to install Coolify on it, but it does not have permission to do it unless I give it to. So I will have to log in and give it permission to install Coolify. That's the only reason I have to do it. So this is the IP address, and the command that I have to basically run here is SSH root at the thing I have. And by the way, I also will get the password to this server in an account that I'm going to use. So if I use that and I put that password in, what is going to happen is that it is going to install Coolify just like it did here. I'm not going to do that right now because it's going to take some time. We're just going to brush through all of that. So once we installed Coolify, what you will have is something like this. Okay, so you will come in, it is going to ask you some stuff, and it's going to give you what you will do after that. You're going to create your first project. This is your local host. Local host means your server that you are in. And on this local host, let's go back to our Obsidian. Yeah. So basically, this is Coolify. This is Coolify. In Coolify, you will have some different resources. On different resources, you can make anything. You can make AppSmith. So how easy it is for me to just have an AppSmith or have anything. I'll just create a new project. That's so easy. This is a project. Okay. And I would just add this, continue, production. And by the way, this is so cool here that I could have multiple I could have multiple things. I could make a dev thing. I would allow people to use my production thing. I change everything in the dev and then I push it. This is something that is a little bit what devs do. What is something that you're not ready to share with your customers, you don't share with them, you do it in a completely different resource. So I add new resource. Inside that resource, I choose AppSmith or anything. So we're going to choose AppSmith. And this is so easy. By the way, this is so easy. If I had to do it, I would have to basically, this is a compose file. This is a Docker compose file. I shouldn't go into this, but the point is, you have to install Docker, and then you have to have this file. You have to run Docker and compose up and all of those things. And we use command line for all of it. And we don't have to. We just ran this one singular command, and after that everything happens through this, and we don't have to run commands anymore. So this is a container that I'm going to just instantiate. It's going to run, and we're going to have a fresh install of AppSmith, and we're going to have so that's what's going to happen. It's going to be pretty fast. So after it's done, it's going to be said it's running, and we're going to go in and see if it's running or not. If it is. Okay. This will take a few moments. We don't have that much time. Or do you want, well, if somebody has questions, we can have questions. And then, or I already have an instantiation ready so that we can just jump in if nobody wants to wait.
So there is one question
Mm-hmm.
from Stefan. So what exactly can we not self-host of the retail AI ecosystem?
Oh, you cannot self-host stuff that is not self-hostable. What does that mean? The point is this: there are some things that require very, very high GPUs or compute power that you cannot have in $20 or $25. That's one. And second is, there is a lot of things that is not open source. So I could have, if Vapi tomorrow open sources all of their code, I could self-host Vapi. That's all. That's all there is. If Retell open sources all of their code, by the way, there are libraries for 𝐕𝐨𝐢𝐬 which are open source, and I could host them, but they're a little bit complicated. So I won't do that. I've tried them. I had my own library at one time. The point is this: anything you have code of, you could self-host. But the issue you won't be able to self-host it on Hetzner. There are a lot of things which you won't be able to, because for a single fact that they require a lot more. For example, you won't be able to self-host ChatGPT because it uses a lot more compute. So it's a big model, and it requires a lot. Yeah, I could self-host Stable Diffusion. I could self-host open source chat gpts. I could even show you if you want me to, but I could I do open source a very large language models, like 405 billion parameter models. I could open anything that is open source and you have enough compute for, you could self-host. That's the answer to that question.
Yeah, the way I like to search open source stuff is like if I like a tool, then I just type in Google, like for example,
Yeah.
make alternative, self-host alternative, something like that, and then you get
Mm.
a lot of open source tools that
Yeah.
are like make but are open source, so you can self-host them, and N8N is one of them. So yeah.
So you're going to come in, you're going to just do this stuff here, and by the time that you're in, and this is the easy part now, we have gone through the hard. By the way, is anybody somebody that is completely lost, like they don't understand anything that is happening, and they have that we, there are no stupid questions. If there is something very basic question you still have, you have time to just put that into the chat. So what is AppSmith here? What are we going to use it for? It's going to be our basically our front end. If you go back to our Obsidian, okay, so our N8N basically was our server. What does our server means? Think about it this way. Okay, can people see me? If they can see me, that would be easier. But if you can see me, focus on my camera, for example. What it's going to be, what I'm going to by the way, can people see my camera, and what can they see on my camera?
um, yeah,
No,
we were seeing the stuff that you just showed.
but you can't see my camera, right?
No.
Nope, I don't think so. Anyway, what is my camera? Yes. Yep,
Yeah.
that's so okay. So basically, think about it this way. I have a every kind of logic that I have when I have a computer, and I have my hard drives, I have my storage, I have my screen, and I have my CPU. The CPU runs my logic, it runs my functions. My monitor, or my, the things that I see, is my front end. And then my hard drive is my storage. The same way works in servers as well. I'm oversimplifying it, but that's how it is. So in our stack, the N8N is like our CPU. The AppSmith is like our screen. And the right now we're going to use Google Sheet as our storage. It's going to be our database, but you could use better databases which have more functionality, but because it's for beginners, so I'm going to use Google Sheet. So let's now go to something. Let's go to Retell, for example. We're going to take this example. So we have a single prompt agent, and then we have a webhook. So what is a webhook? A webhook is a place, is a connection to your CPU, is to your server. So our server in this case is N8N. So what do we do? And we could self-host N8N the same way we just self-hosted AppSmith. I don't have to go through that. So let's just go to this. This is a webhook. What does that mean? That whenever something happens, Retell sends some data to this specific place, this specific URL. It sends a packet of data. It sends it, like mails it at this specific address whenever it wants. So what happens then? It comes to this specific webhook, and it looks something like this. So it's going to have call ID. It's going to have a lot of your call information. So what do I do when I call this specific agent and I say listen? Let's say there is no data right here, but I say call, and whenever I start a call, end a call, or stuff like this, there is going to be a specific object that is sent to this specific webhook. Think about this: when a Retell knows what some address of your server, and it mails some packets to that server. And why do we need it? What we do with this specific information here is that we send it to a particular Google Sheet. And this is that Google Sheet. we are th- oh we are this started running. So this is a Google Sheet. You'll have to actually do some stuff here. I'm not going to this is not a Retell tutorial. So, and this is not, a webhook tutorial, but I explained it anyway. What happens after the webhook is that you're going to, massage this. By the way, I'm not actually capturing the right webhook anyway. So it's the call started one. But the point is, you will have to figure out which post request you actually need, and after that, you'll have to massage the correct data out of it, and then send that to a Google Sheet. And when you send that to a Google Sheet, it's going to look something like that. It's not going to look exactly like this because I haven't set it up for Retell yet. So let's say it looks like this. This is a Google Sheet, and it updates every single time a call happens using your Retell. A new call happens, Retell says, oh, this call happened. I'm going to send its information to this specific URL. This is that specific URL. After that, you massage it and you store it in your database. This was your server, and this is your database. This is your, like, a hard drive, a storage. So this database, it could be Suva based, it could be better databases. So right now I'm going to use Google Sheet, and now we're going to connect this Google Sheet to our AppSmith so that we can see stuff. So this is like our AppSmith is our monitor, and the Google Sheet is like our storage or hard drive. So we have to connect our Google Sheet to our monitor, or basically stuff like this. So we're going to just choose a Google Sheet. We're going to name it something stupid, and then we're going to connect it. And we're going to connect it? We're going to what happened? Save and authorize. It takes some time sometimes. So I have to, it's going to be using OAuth. If you're already signed in, you won't have to do anything. So that's how it's going to be like. It's going to say which spreadsheet do you want to choose. I'm going to say this is the sample call data. I choose it. It's so simple. It's just like we have that the whole sheet right here. So this is the data. So this was the data. Okay. And how are we going to build the dashboard? Before we build the dashboard, we have to figure out, okay, how do we get this data and get, you know, insights out of it? Because look at this data. This is a lot of calls. These are, a lot of them are booked, a lot of them are voicemails, a lot of them didn't pick. If we look at our, final dashboard, it has a lot. It doesn't have a lot, it has some operations on top of them. How do you do that? And how do you we have connected this specific Google sheet to this specific AppSmith. It's pretty simple, you saw it, but we have to create some views. That is what we call, if I could simplify it, what we have to choose some data from our whole database, and we have to do some math over it, and then we'll get, okay, these are how many calls we booked. You could do it here, pretty easy, but the easier way is to do it inside the spreadsheet, because that's going to be easy for most people. So we could do an SQL query, but that's going to get too complicated. So let's say what we do here, people know spreadsheet, most people know spreadsheets. So this is a spreadsheet. We're going to sum all this whole cost table. Okay, we're going to sum it, and it's in the data sheet, and we're going to sum the whole cost table. So we get that cost here. How do we get that cost? Right here. So this is our editor. It's like, this is just basically as same as like if you have used any WordPress or something like that. So you could just get any element here. It's like these are standard elements, a button, and you could work with that here. It's pretty easy to use. But what we're going to do instead, by the way, before we go anywhere, I need to explain. By the way, anybody has any questions before we dive into this specific part, because it's a little bit nuanced?
So there is one question about AppSmith installation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are there any instructions for the installation?
No, we just did it in front of you. We didn't do anything, basically. The only thing we needed to do was install Coolify. And after Coolify is like installing, and it's like, think about this. I would install an AppSmith just again in front of you.
Yes,
This is an N10. I
just
did
one
this,
click.
that, this one, and then after this, I see at AppSmith, I click it, I say deploy, and AppSmith is installed. It's just that simple. And there's one part of it, we're going to cover that later, is that you can for example, my AppSmith is at my custom domain. Yeah, so this is my AppSmith, and this is my N8N. Okay, so this is my N8N. It's on my custom domain, hyperbolic AI. So how do you do that? That's you have to go into your DNS servers, which is something here that you have to edit that, but I have left it for the, because it's not that important. But if you want to do you know white label, it's very important that you use your domains. So let's go back to so if I say deploy a new AppSmith, it's just there. There's nothing to do, basically. That's how easy it is. And the same thing, N8N, do the same thing. We instead of being here, I just choose N8N. I just go like, where is it? So I choose go to N, and I will find it: ABCDFGHIJKLMN. Yeah, this is N8N. I just click, deploy, works. That's how easy it is. People make it so complicated, but with Coolify, it's as easy. You have to just install Coolify and everything else works.
Mhm.
Anyway, by the way, this is Metabase. This is also a way to create dashboards, but it does not allow, a custom branding. And this is the one that allows complete authentication and branding, but it's going to be a little bit complicated. So I left it for the first touch point today. I could do it some other day. So by the way, let's get back to this one. So we could create multiple pages with this pretty easily, and we could do that. But right now what we need to do is we need to have it. This is the data we have, and we have this total cost, right? How do we get that and we show it there? It's not going to be that simple. We have to choose this specific uh you know cell. How do we choose that? We have to come back to our editor, and we have to go to queries. Inside that query, what is a query? It's like we're going to get a specific element from that, and the queries are more complicated than that. You could have a whole sheet, and you could do all sorts of stuff on that sheet, and then you could do like query is very and we're going to do some of them, but the easy stuff is that we're just going to do it, just fetch one specific element. So how we're going to do that, we're going to say it's pretty easy, like so easy. Let's just look at this. Fetch many sheet rows. This is the sheet that I'm choosing. This is the other sheet that I chose. And from that, I'm going to, by the way, let's just create a table. Let's just yeah, sample call data. I'm going to choose this, and I'm going to just run it. I have all of it, like all of my data. I'm just going to create a table, and I have my whole table. This is a view, right? You could deploy it. Like this is an app that I'm creating. I deploy it, then I share it with anybody. So this is something. This is the part, and then what we do after that is we need a text element inside of which we're going to showcase you know our total calls or total cost, basically. So I go to the UI, I say new UI element, and this is the text, which yeah. So in the content tab, and we're going to delete this text here. And now there's one part that I want you to focus on. This is a little bit uh, involved. These are like think about this. This is the whole row. The table one, this was the table one, and I chose the whole row of this table one. So the way that I have access to the data that I connected is through these two braces, these two big braces. This is JavaScript, but you don't have to worry too much about it, because it's going to be pretty easy the way we're going to do it. We're going to just I'm going to show you how. And if you don't understand what you're supposed to do here, what you do is that you just take this thing and you just put that into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT would just tell you exactly what you need to put in. So that is going to be pretty easy for you. So let's go back to queries, and we're going to create another query, because we have to this was the whole table query, but we're going to go. And by the way, you can have multiple databases here. Like, think about this. I could add a new data source. I could add multiple things. I could combine them and do like all sorts of things here. So this is very powerful. We're going to just do it, take baby steps. So API to I'm going to do the same thing. Sorry, fetch many spreadsheets. No, sheet rows. This sample call data. This is the sheet two, and I'm going to say run. Right now, I'm going to say run. So this is the total cost that I have. I have to get this specific thing, but I have this API to here. I could do stuff here, but I could just get only one column, the first column. That's it. I could do that, but it's not that good. I want to actually show you something else as well. So I'm going to do it in a different manner. So what we're going to do, we have API 2 here as well. So we're going to go to API 2, API 2 dot data. Okay. So this is the a whole sheet basically. If I had more stuff here, it will show all of it. But what you're going to do here, this is a list. Inside of a list, we have this basically a JSON object. So you don't have to understand it, but I have to give you a little bit of taste of code. So I'm going to do that here. So a little bit of taste of code is not bad for you, bad for your health. So what we're going to do is choose the first element of our list. We're going to do that with 0. This is the first element. And then we're going to basically uh, choose, what was the name of it? Total cost. So we're going to do total. What was the exact name? I forgot. Total. Okay. Total cost. So if I go, okay, wait a second. Let me go to that. I forgot. Oh, I have to add a. Where did we go? Yeah, we can. I also have to add these braces. Sorry. Even I forgot the syntax. So the point is, now we have a specific data point from our data. So what did we do? This was our whole sheet. From that, we chose our first row, which is going to be 0 because we're programming. And then from that, we chose a specific value inside our JSON object. And that is how we did it. We named it by the name of it. So that's how we got it. Now, does anybody have any questions? This was only the amount of code that we're going to be doing today. Does anybody have any other questions?
Mm, we can take them. We can look at them later, I think, at the end.
Okay. So now what we're going to do, so we got to this. We made a table when we needed it. And when we made this, let's get all the booked calls. Okay? Only the booked calls. So we can do all sorts of queries, and we're going to do that here. This is going to be another query, and it's going to be a little bit complicated query, but it's going to be pretty simple as well. So we're going to do sample call data. We're going to choose our data sheet, and now we're going to have a filter. It's so simple. We're going to say column name is going to be status, and we're going to say equal booked. So we're going to choose, let's look at our call. Look at our, yeah. So this is the status. We're going to say if the status is booked, give us that sheet. And we could also count it, for example, but we're not going to do that right now. So we'll know how many were booked. So we run that API 3.1. So where was it? Yeah, equal booked. Now we have only our booked. So we bind that and we create a table. That's it. Now we have our booked calls. So, and the point is, the moment our sheet loads, that all of this changes, and it is our dashboard completely changes at that moment. So that is it. But we're not going to stay here. We could create everything from here, but we're going to just basically launch an other, and we're going to choose a among the templates. Sorry, I not launched a new one. So it's a template, and this is the template that I basically used in the other part. So this is going to be a template. You're going to choose it. The only thing you have to do is instead of these numbers that we have here, look at this. We had this, right? So we go into the data. There's going to be a lot of this data. Instead of that, we're going to choose this. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it at this specific one. And we're going to have this and that and that. So if we do all of that, we're going, I don't have to build all of it. I explained it. So if we do all of that, we get this, right? So every single thing here is like this is API1.data to 7.values. Do you understand? So it's the same thing. And you could create that, you could edit it, and you could, like, for example, this, if I look at that, it's also a specific structure, but inside that structure, we have still this specific thing. Do you understand? So, or this specific thing. It's a specific structure, But inside that structure, we're going to use our query, and in and query this query is going to be a big thing. It's going to be a big thing, and we're going to go inside that query to get to the exact value that we need. So does anyone have questions now?
I have a question. Can
Hmm.
I change the design of the dashboard if I don't like it?
Of course.
Mm.
Like, you could do anything basically. This is the design of the dashboard. We chose a template so that it's easy.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not a designer. By the I design using code, not
Yeah.
not doing this. So if I need to choose like style, I choose like do this. It changes, everything changes.
Wow.
So like, this is like WordPress. You could build, I could make this small, big, anything. Whatever you want to do here, you create this. Like, this thing, I change this, I could change the style of it, I could do this. Like, it's visual. Do whatever you want here. So but the point is, anytime you have to have data somewhere, you have to first you have to connect the data, then you have to make a query, and from that query you need to tell that specific element when it needs to have that data, and you're going to put that here. And that's all.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I need to explain. Everything else is just simple as it possibly could be. Because a new URL element, what do I need? I need to create a form. What do? I choose a full form here, something like that. Or I need to add a chart. I have a chart. I could add a chart. And like for example, this is a chart, and
Mhm.
here. And so I change this to two 200, and that's it. It's going to be so small. So that's how it works, right? So that's so easy. But the point is, instead of having it static, I'm going to use, for example, something from here. Do you understand? So so these are the two braces that you have to use, and inside that braces you're going to get data from your query, and you're going to get your query from the data sources that you're going to connect to this specific project. So your data comes from here, you connect your databases here, then you go into your editor, you make a query inside, and from that query, and inside of your UI, sorry, I got out of this. It was wherever we were. So, and inside our query, we get into the UI, we choose a specific UI element, like like this text, and then we go here, and then we put these two curly braces, and then we get that specific value. So there are three different steps that you have to do. But after you master this specific little thing, you can do anything. You understand?
Mhm.
And by the way, these queries, you could write JavaScript here, do all sorts of things. So it's not just local. It's not just simple. You could write complicated stuff you want. So and now we have built our very, very bad dashboard. Uh, so so whatever it looks like, let's just go to the one that was created from a template. Yeah, this one. So what we do, we can deploy it, and after we deploy it, we can share it, and we could make it public, or we could give people some way. And that is how we will share it. And if we go to a private window where I'm not signed in, I hope it works, because I don't remember what password did I use. I don't remember password. What? It's not getting. Okay, let's try this. It's not working for some reason. It usually works. Uh, some it's I'm copying it, but it's not pasting it. Okay, so the data is not get the URL is not getting copied for some reason. I'll figure it out. I think it should, and it did it for me before, but it's not right now. I don't know why. But if you have the same issue, you can talk to me. Have you actually put the Discord
Yeah,
URL?
it's in the chat, guys. So
Yeah, yeah.
if you have
So
any questions, Ibrahim has a really good offer, which is about if you join his Discord server, you can ask any questions about what he did today, and he will help you
Mhm.
out
So
there. Yeah.
yeah, thank you, Noor. So it's not really an offer. I'm just trying to help because I don't want people to not do what I just gave so much time to. So if I gave, you should be able to do this. And if there are any issues, you could, for the next 2 days, you should be able to do this. I will explain anything. You, if you want to even get on a call for 15, 20 minutes, I would even do that. The point is this: you share it. It's not working right now for some reason, but you share it, and when you share it, your client can just access it using that URL. And you could also do, give them a password. Uh, that is it. Any other thing? Any other questions that people have
Joey
now?
has a really good question here. Is this solution to be built per customer, or can you host this for many customers with login access capabilities?
Yeah. So authentication is a little bit iffy here because it's a little bit iffy. Authentication is a little bit iffy here. If you want complete authentication, you'll have to buy their enterprise solution, because even though it is self-hosted, even though it is open source, there's still some, even in na10 there are some things that you can't do. You need to buy the license to it, even though there's a little bit part that is open source, but there's a part that is not open source. But the authentication is a little bit iffy. But if you are a little bit technical, you can get authentication, not from it but from outside of it. For example, if you did Supabase,
Mhm.
uh, you would be able to do it. But generally, you won't have to worry about it, because what you could do here is that you just add some, you can add just people's email addresses here, and then give them some passwords and stuff. I have And then after that, you'll have to add some people's email addresses. You could give them password, and then they will have access to this. But there's one issue here, is that if they somehow figure out, and I'm going to be completely honest with you here, if they somehow figure out to just click on this app, they will also have access to everything else. So that's a bad thing about this, and that is only allowed in their cloud thing. But that is something that gets solved by directus, because that allows you to complete authentication. But that was a little bit complicated, so for the first part I didn't focus on it. But if you go for this, it has built-in authentication, and authentication on all of that, and even that part is open source. For AppSmith, that part is not, authentication is not open source. So, but you could use some other solution, for example Authentique. This is solely for authentication, and you could put that on top of it. So for that would be pretty easy. But if you want all in one, that would be directus. And if I think could do that as well. But for the only thing in which I'm explaining hosting, and then I'll have to explain databases, then I'll have to explain it would have been a little bit more complicated, so I didn't do it today.
Mhm.
So yeah, so if they don't click it, this thing, you're gonna be fine. That's
Mhm.
all I'm going to say.
Okay. Um, and Matt is asking, would this solution be for internal use and used to bill customers then?
Yeah, you wouldn't use it as a SaaS. You wouldn't use it as a SaaS internal tool, yes. Because it is meant for internal tools. It's not going to be because it can't scale like that, and it's very heavy on the other stuff. So this is mostly for internal use. This is not to build a complete SaaS on top of it. This is not like Webflow or Bubble. This is not on that level. You could specifically build a lot of stuff. A lot of, for example, I could have multiple pages here, add another page. Like for example, the one like this one, I have pages. I don't remember where are they, but I do have pages. Yes. So these are the other pages that have. Yeah, so there are different pages you could have. You could make them completely, but it's not as robust as, because this is for internal use only.
Mhm.
This is not going to be that robust as Bubble or Webflow or stuff like that. For that, you'll have to use, if you want to have that sort of functionality. mm, yeah, you're better off just using WordPress. There's, I think that's all there is to it. But I think for it's going to be used for internal use. Any other questions?
Um, except for the enterprise version, good for prototyping then. I don't quite understand this question.
Uh,
Um,
I'll read it myself. Okay. No, even the enterprise version is not meant for SaaS level. Even the enterprise version is not meant for that, because there are some things which are limited in that manner. You won't understand it until you're trying to scale something. Okay, if you're trying to have million users on an AppSmith server, it's not going to work, because it's not going to scale that well, because it's not built in a way that scales like that. So it's not about the front end, it's about the back end. So even the enterprise version is not built for that. It's built for enterprises to build internal solutions. That is why it exists. So we're just using in the same manner. We're building internal tools for our customers. We're not building a SaaS on top of it that anybody can just come in, create their own new instance and stuff like that. So that's how it is about. If you want to create a SaaS, you will use something like Webflow or Flutterflow and stuff like that. So yeah.
mhm. Okay, I think that's it. Also, there is one. Would you prefer AppSmith over React.js?
I didn't hear it. Could you say that again? There was a.
You would prefer AppSmith over React.js?
Of course, I would. Like I could show you. Let me show you. Okay, this is for. Okay, I should show you this. Okay, localhost 3000 dashboard. This is React.js. This is my dashboard. Okay. This is what I build for my clients. Okay, you have leads, you have campaigns, you have campaign manager. These are you have separate skips. You can create agents. This is React. Okay, so this is, for example, they can create different campaigns, and in that they can compare those campaigns. Like for example, they change a different voice, they change different models, they want to different scripts. So this is what React gives you. Okay, and this is scalable. If you do all the backend on cloud function, that is stuff that you do if you can do full code and you understand code. So this is what you do then, and it looks way better in comparison, and it is way faster in comparison. AppSmith is going to be a little bit slower. The point is this: this is low code. Low code is never going to compete with full code, because full code is just a bunch of files and you only deal with those files, and it's going to scale faster, it's going to be more modular, it's going to be all of those things. But full code and GUI is always going to be limited in that capacity. So that is what I will say. But AppSmith does not have that sort of API. Directus also has an API that even if you want to do it with code, you could, but it also have a studio in which you could do it low code as well. And it's a little bit more complicated, but it's still easier. But the point is this: this is what you can build with React and basically Shadcn UI. But what we did today is easier and faster. This took me a lot more time. And if you're more technical, you could go with React, and you should go with React if you have time, and if you have for example, I don't build authentication. I use Supabase. I self-host Supabase. Supabase gives you authentication in itself. I don't have to code it every single time. So you can do code, but even then, you could use some places that have built-in functionality so that you don't have to build them again. But you have to do stuff that you do yourself. So for that, React.js and all of those things are very important, but they're full code. This was focused on low code for people who cannot do React.js.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I learned a lot
Yes.
today.
Yeah. So this is for customers
Mm-hmm.
that you build a dashboard for customers. You're not going to build SaaS on top of this. You're going to build an internal tool for customers.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Cool. Yeah, I hope I didn't miss any questions. But if you have more questions, feel free to join Ibrahim's Discord, which I pinned you at the top. And yeah, um, thank you very much, Ibrahim. I learned a lot today, and I think everybody learned a lot. Did you hear about Docploy? Because it's the open source version of Coolify.
Uh, Coolify is open source.
Is it too? Everything, like
The-
all of
If
it?
I
Or?
and the point is this, okay? There are some projects, okay? They are built like, if I go to Coolify, they are open source. This is Coolify, okay? This is completely open source. Na10, same thing, open source. And what they do is they give an open source, same thing with AppSmith, same thing with Directus, but they have a cloud version as well. So you could self-host it, but they also have you could this is self-hosting, but we could also do it in a cloud manner. If I go to coolify.io, they are going to have a cloud version as well. But by the way, this is the cloud version, okay? And just like na10, and this is the self-hosted version. So these are the kind of people who are self-hosting it, and this is the people who are in the cloud. It's not that, think about this. This is not a lot of people, and this should be in millions. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
We used Hetzner for this should be in millions because it makes basically this is Vercel. I want to explain what Vercel is, but this is just Vercel for your home. You could install Coolify on a little mini PC, and from that mini PC, make your Netflix on your own home. So all sorts of things that are possible with this. You could have Pi-hole and basically block all ads on your whole server. You could install Kodi and be like, there's so many things. If I start geeking out like a developer that I do for my own home and service that I set up, it'll blow your mind. But the point is, you could have your own Google Drive, you could have your own Gmail, you could have your own you can have your own Netflix, you can have all of those things, that you have your own calendars, you can have anything that we use generally in our lives, that you can have you can have your own Excel sheets, Dropbox, all sorts of things. I can't even imagine, like, I can't even explain to you, but there are a lot of things all of them are here. Just look through it, you'll find all sorts of gems, all sorts of gems. So anything else?
Um, Coolify can also do your own Dockers? Question
Yeah,
mark.
sure. This is here. If you have I didn't go for it because people don't know about Docker, but this is a Docker file. Like, all of it is what this is a basically a Docker file.
Mhm.
It's a Docker Compose file, and what they're doing when I say just deploy is they're just doing that on Docker Compose up on that specific file. So that's all it's doing. Being that it's not that complicated. But if you have your own Docker file, and if you want to know how to write Docker Compose files, the only thing you have to do, go there. Even if this is the neat part, if you have a Next.js, or if you have a Python, for example, a fast API, and you have requirements.txt, and you put in the right uh, you know uh, readme and all of that, you could also host from a project from a GitHub repo. So if you set it up correctly, that you're supposed to, you could do all sorts of things from your GitHub repo. You could have a container on your Docker registry, and you could pull that, and you could extension from this. So that's the kind of stuff that you can do. It's not just for people who are not into a lot of it. And the other part is, you could set up a firewall on top of this, because we are in Hetzner. If you will go back to Hetzner, sorry, where is Hetzner? Where did Hetzner go? So this is the Hetzner thing. I could go into the terminal for this, and if I'm going to the terminal and change a lot of things, if I could set up the UFW, my, it is not up right now on this server. Oh, I got out of it. Sorry. So it actually closed that. I'll have to sign in basically. But if I would set up a firewall, and I would set up all sorts of other stuff. I could, even here, install my Docker containers and run up from here. But the point is, in Coolify, you just install Coolify, and all of your Docker containers that you have to run, you do it through it. And the other part that Docker it helps you do is, it installs SSL, and because using traffic, so, and gives you HTTPS. It's basically, these are not secure, but some after a little while they do become secure. So it also install HTTPS, for it makes SSL certificates as well. That is something that people don't know how to do generally. And the other part is, by the way, this is something that I needed to touch upon, is that these are my different this is my is do people have time, because I'm over time? It's 1 hour
Yeah,
10 minutes.
like I have time, and this is being recorded. Like if you have time,
Yeah, I do have time. So the point was this: I wanted to touch upon this as well, because this is very important for branding.
okay.
Basically, this is one other thing that I need to explain. I have to go back to the meeting for this. Where is the meeting? Where's the meeting? Okay. So if people can see me, think about this. Whenever you type in google.com, it routes to a specific IP address. So for google.com, the IP address is 8.8.8.8. So that is what google.com is. So Google's public DNS, that's what basically it is. So basically, just like you have your address, your server also has an address. And that address is this specific number that we had on Hetzner. This is your address. This is your service address. This is IPv4. These are 4 numbers. So when I actually got into the terminal as well, I also used this specific address, right? SSH root at this specific number. Now, if you want to connect a domain to your website, your AppSmith, or anything else, and you don't want to have it this very garbage name, what you do, just like I have it here, Coolify, like Coolify. This is my Coolify. So it has a very good domain for me. How do I do it? I go to my name server. I go to my name server, which and update my DNS records. So this is my name server. This is DigitalOcean. I have my name servers here, but for you, wherever you bought your name domain, it is Namecheap, if it is GoDaddy, probably it is there. So when you go there, you you tell the this record, you tell the internet, whenever somebody puts this into the browser, direct them to this specific IP address. This is the address of your server. When you do that, and after a little while, it doesn't happen, in a second. That is why I didn't do it right here. But the point is, it directs to this specific IP address. But the neat part is this: it specific IP address. It doesn't go to the specific, port that you need to go. What does that mean? I'm not going to explain. The point is this: on this specific server, I also have the NA10. I also have the Coolify. By the way, only NA10 and Coolify. This is on a completely different server. I have different servers that I connect to a single Coolify. Anyway, the point is this: if you're lost, I'll explain again. This is the address to your server. The internet does not know that this domain needs to connect to this address. How do you tell it? You go to your name server provider and you add this entry. You tell it, whenever somebody says this, go to here. But but the server does not know whether these are the two, these are different, these are same, right? So if I put this here or this here, they both go to this server. So inside that server I have Coolify. So in Coolify, what I do is I go to my settings, and I set my IPv4 address, which is my server, and this is my domain, Coolify dot whatever. So this is my server. And whenever I make a project, I have a service inside that project. So if I go to my actual yeah, let's just go with this. Let's go with this. And even here, this is the actual service that I just instantiated. And it here I could add a specific subdomain. I'll explain, I'll show it with my actual server. Let me see my actual, where is it? Is that my server? No. Where is my actual Coolify? Where's my Coolify? Where's my Coolify? Um, this is not the one. I have to go. Let me just go here. So yeah. So this is, let's say I have, this is my personal Google Drive, for example. This is my personal Google Drive. So in this, I could add, because I don't have a specific domain for this. Let's go to NA10, for example. I will go to NA10 projects, NA10 production service, and okay. So here, what I have told it, when I put automations.hyperbolicai.io, my name server gets me to this specific IP address. From that specific IP address, Coolify handles this. And this is by, if you had to code this, it would be a file that you have to write, and you have to keep that file in a specific place as well. And you're going to do that through terminal, and you're going to you're going to you might mess that up. But as we saw in this Coolify, I am putting just this line here, okay, and that actually allows me to route it to the right domain that I need to. So I have two domains. If I go here or here, I get to my NA10. So this was something that I needed to explain. Again, this is a little bit complicated. This is the address to your server. The internet does not know. I tell the internet, whenever somebody tells this, go here. But there are two specific names for same address. When inside Coolify, you go inside the settings of the service itself, and you put a domain there. So then Coolify, whenever it's this domain, goes to automations, but when it is that domain, it goes to Coolify. So that was the explanation there.
Cool. And one last question about the costs. So, like, this is a really cost-effective method, but can you give us like some examples on, for example, how much could this system handle without crashing or without the need to update? Like, how many clients can we hold
Easy.
this, or
The point is this: if you choose, yeah, you have, if you choose a dedicated server, it's 8 GB, 16 GB. It can handle like 100 clients per day easily, no issue. On NA10, 100 requests, concurrent requests, it can run pretty easily, no issues whatsoever. 50 clients, 100 clients. But don't, for NA10, do not go for shared, go for dedicated. But for AppSmith, go for shared. Doesn't matter, because you're not going to be, it doesn't change that much. You don't want CPU to run all the time. Whenever it renders, it's going to use for a little while. It's not, and like nobody just is going to just use their dashboard all the time. But go for NA10 dedicated, 8 GB RAM, 4 CPUs, 50 people, are easy, no issues.
wow, okay. I'm definitely going to try this stuff out. Thank you very much, and
Mhm.
I really appreciate. Um, yeah. you sharing this knowledge with us. And yeah, guys, if you have more questions, please join Ibrahim's Discord and he will answer your questions there. Thank you very much, Ibrahim, and everyone who was there.
Yeah, I would like to ask, thank you very much, everybody who stayed for that long. It's like 1 hour, 20 minutes. And I also rambled a lot about a lot of things that I didn't need to. So even showing my own stuff and plug, but I didn't need to. But thank you so much for being here and, sharing the passion that I wanted to. This was not about AppSmith. This is not about anything else. This was about me teaching people how to self-host stuff and not pay a lot of SaaS services. That's what it is about. If I could, even self-host LLMs, but that gets more expensive, by the way, because those are GPUs, and GPU costs are pretty high if you don't manage it well. So yeah, but CPU costs are so low that if you self-host and you can do a lot of stuff. Anyway, that's it.
And this call was also recorded, guys. So if you need to look back on anything that Ibrahim showed you today, then you can just, yeah, watch this again. Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.